focusing the vibrational sound frequencies into your head and activating your pineal gland or doing something of that nature, or healing. I think we're probably dealing with all of the above.
Right, and I think there's a link between the Ankh, the symbol of the Ankh, which is also in Egypt talked about being a symbol for eternal life, and the notion of sound, of being a tuning fork for sound, because
yes.
The link up between eternal life and sound, you're starting to graze the surface, it seems to me, and the potential here is really huge.
Yeah.
I'm amazed that probably it's a semi-good thing that the African government hasn't leached onto this, because if they knew what they really had here, perhaps they would try to hide it from the people, even more so. It's lost on the hillsides. If it weren't for you and Johann Heiner, who is a pilot flying over these ruins, they simply would stay in obscurity, is the point, right?
Yeah, and I think it's, what's important to also recognize is that these kind of discoveries and the conclusions we reach don't happen quickly. They don't happen overnight, and I think having been here for about a week now, you're starting to realize how difficult it is to get around and get to these sites. They're not, sometimes, especially the ones that you've discussed. Okay, we're going to study this site here. Well, the site that we've done most of the work on is right on the edge of that mountain right behind us. Yes. Now, to get there is not easy.
I understand.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you got to get there. You got to clear the site, chop down the invasive trees, clear the grass so you can get inside, and then start doing your research.
Right.
And these things take time. And in one of these processes, we accidentally started moving some of the stones that were lying around, and I heard them from a distance, and they were ringing like bells. They're making beautiful sounds, and it was that moment that changed everything for me. And from that moment, my particular theory on this started moving towards sound frequency as a source of energy and a tool that was used by these civilizations. And then suddenly you look at Egypt and the pyramids, and that they were sound energy generating devices. That suddenly comes out of nowhere, hits me in the face. And the fact that the stones at Stonehenge were chosen for their sound acoustic properties, I've never heard that before until I went to Stonehenge 6 weeks ago. That was exposed to me by this lady that's been doing a lot of work on Stonehenge, and she's a really eccentric, out-of-the-box thinker, and she's got incredible knowledge and information about the energy flow in the stones of Stonehenge. For example, that there are these bands of energy that come out of the stones of Stonehenge. She shows you with a divining rod how it affects the divining rod as you move it up the stones at Stonehenge. Clearly there's a lot of energy flow. We've seen it with the grass.
Yes.
Here. So there's no difference.
Yeah, absolutely. And different stones have different energies and the whole thing. So there's really an amazing discovery here, but also a continuing mystery. Continuing mystery.
A lot of research we need to do.
Absolutely. And I think ground penetrating radar would be really awesome to bring to the site.
Ground penetrating radar will be absolutely crucial.
Well, Michael, this is great. And because it's becoming cold, the sun goes down like a stone, and we're going to have to move to the next location.
Yeah.
But let's continue this elsewhere.
Cool.
We're here at this amazing ruin that I've just been shooting all over the place. It's the largest ruin, isn't it?
Yeah, it is the largest one we have found so far. I trust there'll probably be larger ones, but this one is at the moment, it's about 150 meters across, and you've just walked through it so you get a sense of it. And you've been attacked by energy forces all over the place.
Yes.
Yeah, it's fascinating, and it's right on top of the mountain. It's one of the highest ruins we've got, and it is mysterious. There was a lot of stuff going on here. There's a lot of ringing rocks everywhere. That big square rock that I've played on the other side on top of the hill.
Yes.
It's like a xylophone. It's
amazing.
It's spectacular. It's so crystalline.
So we're going to make a transition here, and we're going to talk about this other idea that you have, because I'm sure there's a link up between what you're doing now and the fact that this idea came to you on how to reorganize really society economically.
I realized that that the way the world is right now, there is no happy ending. There is no happy outcome to the financial woes, the problems that we have. It's only going to get worse. And what do we do? Are we going to stay on this train until it crashes completely? Or are we going to be intelligent and use our brains to stop ourselves and say, well, what do we do about this? We can't continue on this economic policy and this thing called capitalism when we know that it's clearly going to crash. So about 5 years ago, just shortly after I wrote Slave Species of God, I realized that we're heading for this, and I started researching a new social structure, and a social structure that is based on the concept of no money. And the reason I say that is because we know, and we constantly reminded that money is the root of all evil, and the love of money is the root of all evil, and all the woes on earth are there because people work themselves into the grave and they work their fingers to the bones for what? For money. Now what the hell is this all about? You get born, and from the moment you take your first breath to the last breath you breathe out, it's all about money. Something is wrong with this equation. So I call this new social structure that I've come up with contributionism. And the reason it's called contributionism is because it takes societies and smaller societies, and it allows people to contribute their natural abilities, their natural talents, or what they've been trained to do to the greater benefit of all in the community. And you remove any form of money, and you prevent any kind of barter or trade, because barter or trade eventually leads to he who has more to trade will rule the roost. So you can't go back to barter or trade because it's just another form of money. And also remove any kind of attachment of value to material things, because material things are just, they're just transient, momentary things in our lives. We accumulate so much rubbish and then we discard it. We keep discarding the stuff we accumulate. So how can we attach any value to it? We keep buying new cars, and suddenly the new car that was so valuable to you last year is now suddenly not valuable at all, and you want something else that's got a lot more value to you. So this value thing is a consequence of capitalism and consumerism, and if we're going to get out of this trap and this dead-end crash, we need to move onto a completely different track that we've never tried as the human race. And that is really very important to understand. Many people, when they first find out about this contributionist thing, they say, oh, it's like communism, or it's like socialism. I say, no, it's nothing like that. It's unlike anything else that humanity has ever done. Because nowhere ever have we removed money from the system.
Right. Well, what it seems to be, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems to be where people are contributing the love and the passion that they have to the society, so that if you explore and you realize, as we have done, that you have a passion for something, as you have a passion for discovering these ancient sites, and that becomes your skill set. And then on top of it, you also are going to have people maybe for 2 hours a day or something do some kind of maybe more menial job to contribute to the sort of workings of the society. Is that right?
Yeah, and this is not a simple thing that can be explained in 5 minutes. It takes quite a while to unpack it and unpack the different fundamental blocks and the cornerstones of contributionism. In its entirety, it's very simple, but we need to completely change our way of thinking, a totally paradigm shift in our thinking, because we're not used to it, and it comes as a shock to the system. People instinctively try and resist it. Well, how are we going to pay for this, and how are we going to afford that, and I say, remember, there's no money. You don't have to pay for anything. Everything is available to everyone. Everything is available for free, because everybody does what they love to do and choose to do and are good at doing, are passionate about doing. They do that as their contribution, hence contributionism, to the greater benefit of all in the community. Now that sounds very simple, but for capitalists, and we are all capitalists because we brought up in the capitalistic system, some people struggle with that first little hurdle. The moment you get over it, things become so easy and so simple to understand. So you need to unpack what are the fundamental cornerstones of this. Well, it's pretty much the same cornerstones as we have in society today: food, water, shelter, health, education, security, legal structures, arts, culture, and so we go. So if you start with those fundamental cornerstones and you start analyzing how is contributionism going to affect the supply of food, and very quickly you realize that when, say, 10% of the global population get involved in the production and the supply of food, because you'll be surprised how many people actually love doing that in any case. They like to work with land and farming and planting stuff and growing food and growing that and farm and, you know, cattle and crop and agriculture in its entirety. If 10% of the global population are developing and providing food, when they get everything given to them to help them do that, what becomes very clear and very evident is the abundance of the supply and of food. How much food there is, it becomes abundant. And the same goes for every other area. In science, in, you know, free energy, the fact that there's no money, the first consequence and the first casualty of a society without money is crime. Crime virtually vanishes overnight, because pretty much all of crime today is committed because of money, the acquisition of wealth and power.
Right.
So if you remove money from the system, crime virtually just melts away and disappears. And then you have obviously the crime of passion and crime of insanity and maybe areas like that. But even if you break this down and you step out of the box and you look at it from the outside, you realize that especially crimes of passion are still most of the time somehow linked to money or greed or envy or jealousy, because your, you know, girlfriend's run off with some guy who's got a bigger car or more money. You know.
Well, it's a have-not sort of paradigm that people have. In other words, they have something or they lack something, so they go and steal it, or they go and, you know, kill for it, or whatever it is. So, but we're talking also about something that 2012 is going to facilitate, and in some ways that's really my interest in it, because it appears through some kind of serendipity that not only are you discovering in these ruins the what appears to be sound technology that is used for healing, and also all sorts of things, including this magnetron, right? So you have the ability to change the world around you using this technology, which is very sophisticated, but we don't have at our disposal at the moment. Although the secret government, I'm sure, is using it, but it's a tribal system with a difference.
Yeah. And this is why I think Africa is a perfect place here, especially in South Africa, because we got the beautiful blend between the haves and the have-nots, the really extremely wealthy and the extremely poor, and it's
the inequality is very obvious here,
yeah,
you know, so it's very glaring. So in some ways, I guess your premise is that perhaps this place that allowed Nelson Mandela, for instance, to change the social order for all intents and purposes in this place in a historical way, in a similar way, possibly the ground is laid here.
We can take it to the next level now, because, you know, if you look at the Constitution and you look at the human rights, the fundamental human rights, basically what has happened is that the politicians have stolen the country from its people. It's as simple as that, and I don't think it takes a genius to figure that out. Everybody knows this. All your listeners and your viewers will know this. The land belongs to its people. Therefore, the minerals in the ground belong to its people. The water belongs to its people. The trees that grow on the ground belongs to its people. The government are officials that have been put into management position by the people to do the best they can for the people. The land, in essence, what's happened is that the politicians have stolen the land from its people. Where the hell does that come from? Who came up with that idea? Well, we know who came up with that idea, the bloody Illuminati. But we need to take that back and notify the people of their fundamental rights. The stuff belongs to you. The stuff belongs to everyone, not a few greedy corporations that have laid claim to it. It belongs to the people. Now, from that premise, we can start building the foundation of a contributionist society. If everything belongs to the people, then there's this incredible wealth of abundance